Welcome back, everybody. It's Monday, May 29th, and I'm hoping my microphone's working since I haven't had this set up in a month. Let me know, YouTube, etc., if my microphone's working. I hope to God. But otherwise, welcome back, everybody. John Aravosis here, live from Washington, D.C. I am back at my usual abode after spending the last month in Chicago, where I'm from. But anyway, welcome back, everybody. Lot of news to talk about today, as always. Mondays, especially, because Mondays, we've got the weekend news as well. As always, let me get rolling on TikTok first. Okay, good. Andy says the sound is good. Excellent. Let me get TikTok rolling first on my iPad over here. And then, as always, we'll wait about 2 minutes or so for folks to arrive. And then we will get rolling because it always takes a couple minutes for folks to arrive from YouTube and TikTok and everywhere else. So let me Zoom, TikTok. Excellent. All right. Anyway, how are folks doing? In America, today is Memorial Day, so we have a federal holiday. It's the day to commemorate the war dead, basically those who died in the U.S. military. So it is a beginning of the sort of the unofficial beginning of the summer here in the States. A lot of people go away for the weekend to the beach, etc. Anyway, hello Ash. Hello Rowan. Hey all. It is Monday. I know. It's weird. Weird. Very weird. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Hello, Lithuania. Always good to see you guys there. As always, we're going to wait about a minute or so. I am home. Yep. Excuse me. We're going to wait about a minute or a minute or so. Somebody said home, and I've got home on my mind now. Also, of course, my nose is itching because every time I start this show, I swear to God, I'm allergic to this show. I start the show and then my nose starts itching every time. Thank you, Mark, for the head heart there. Let's wait about another minute or so. Hey, Paul in Scotland. Hey, John. Thank you for the heart. We'll wait another minute or so for folks to arrive, and then we'll get rolling. All right. Oh, crazy American. I didn't remember. I guess I didn't fully realize you were in Germany. Oh, you did figure out how to switch to Ko-fi? Good. Excellent. Thank you, Chris. That's good. Yeah, we've got a new subscription service we're using, Ko-fi or Coffee, Ko-fi. But instead of Discord, Patreon, because Patreon went evil. Patreon is sort of anti anybody who supports Ukraine. It's really weird. And Discord's okay, kind of complicated and takes too much money, 10%. Ko-fi doesn't take a dime. So we've kind of moved the subscribers over to Ko-fi. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Anyway, welcome, folks. We got a critical mass here. Woo-woo! Hello, TikTokers. Hello, YouTubers. Just to remind folks, the way the show works, I am always bouncing back and forth because I've got TikTok over here on my iPad. Hey, Red, thank you for the gift there. Hey, Ellie. And over here on my laptop, I've got YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, mostly YouTube, and then Twitch, second up here. But anyway, guys, welcome. I am back in Washington, D.C., doing my usual show from here. This is my show where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine. And the way the show works, if anybody's new, is I first go through a selection of the news. I've got about 12 different topics to talk about that I think are important. Tell you guys sort of my take on them. I try not to just sort of report the news unless it's something very simple. But my goal here is to use my background in politics, my background in journalism, political activism as well, and international affairs to give you guys a little bit of a sense of what's going on with the news. Then we switch over to questions. They can be questions about the news I talked about today, or generally speaking, hey, Radoslav, I don't know if we've seen you in a while. Good to see you. Or I don't remember seeing you in a while. And then we switch over to you guys' questions about any of the Ukraine topics you want to talk about in general. So let's get rolling here. Today is day 459 of Vladimir Putin's special 10-day military operation. I wanted to give you guys an update really quick. Thank you so much for helping out on the fundraiser we did for sick Ukrainian kids. We did a fundraiser to basically get gift sets for Ukrainian kids who are terminally ill. Basically meaning they're sick and they're going to die. There's nothing that can be done for them. They are in a hospice. A hospice, you may know, is unlike a hospital where you go to hopefully get better. A hospice is where they send you when there's no chance of getting better, and basically they're there to help you, take care of you, to give you medicine, things like that, to make you feel better. Thank you, Tom and User, for the hats there. So we were contacted by the hospice. Thank you, Mark Starr, for the gifts there. I did forget to mention, by the way, please keep the gifts coming. I do the show for free. I do it full time. I've been doing it full time since the war broke out, February of last year. And because this is my job, so to speak, my income comes through you guys. So I pay my bills with all the gifts you guys give me, like the fun heart Nico just gave me, and Martin as well, and your guys' gifts on the super chat questions. Also, I will always answer a super chat question as the next topic I get to. Thank you, Ray, for the heart there. As the next question I get to, as my thanks to you. Thank you, Ellie. I was wondering what the slippers look like. They're kind of Dorothy. Okay, there's a new gift on TikTok that looks a little bit like Dorothy's or what you would call them. What's her face? Cinderella's slippers. I'm not sure. Any case, so we had a fundraiser. We were contacted by the head of a hospice for children in Kharkiv, Ukraine. And these are kids from the recently liberated territories that Russia had occupied. And they asked us, they just wanted to get gift sets together of pieces of paper, notebooks, pens, magic markers, these kind of things, coloring things, and toys for the kids. We needed $7 a kit. You guys ended up donating $1,734. That's 247 kids we are now helping, thanks to you. 100% of your money went to the kids. I didn't get a dime. Didn't even come through me. I had you guys send it directly to Ukraine, and Vlad, my friend handling it there, is also not taking a dime. So thank you guys for helping the kids. I really appreciate it. Yesterday, Sunday, was Kyiv Day, the anniversary of the founding of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. It was founded. Now, this is kind of wild. What year? I'm going to ask you now. Okay, if you know the answer, don't answer. Okay, if you know the answer, okay. But I want people to guess with their best guess. What year do you think Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, was founded in? All right, just kind of I should have set up a poll. I didn't think about it, but maybe just sort of throw it up on the screen. Because yesterday was the anniversary of the founding of Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital. What do you guys think? Ooh, lot of variation here. 497 to 1567. A lot of 1500s, interestingly, 1300s. That's what I would have gone. I would have gone more for Middle Ages. Get this. Kyiv was founded in 882 AD. The city has been around for 1,541 days. You know what city has not been around as long as Kyiv, Ukraine? What city do you think? Moscow. Moscow has only been around for 1,147 days, being founded. Excuse me. No, not days. Excuse me. We wish. Moscow was founded in 1,147. Kyiv was founded in 882 AD. So Moscow has about 260 years younger than Kyiv. The last 24 hours, or the last 48 hours, thank you, Tomcat, for the gifts there. The last 48 hours have been rather big in terms of Russian attacks on Ukraine. Saturday to Sunday, was the biggest drone attacks they've had. I think it was 52 drones. Let me see here. Was it 52? 54 drones, a record 54 drones that the Russians shot at the Ukrainians. Last night, what they did last night, which is really, I think they might have done it the night before too. Thank you, Ellie, for the star. The Russians are also trying to sort of go at all hours of the day, at least this weekend. And I think a lot of people think it's because of Kyiv Day, that basically that's the reason they're doing it. That in order to, thank you, Edith, for the shoes there, that in order to basically, the Russians like to take holidays like your holiday and spoil it by attacking you. It's a thing the Russians do. So because it was the anniversary of the founding of Kyiv, Ukraine, the capital, the Russians decided to just attack the capital even more than usual. What they did last night, for example, they threw a lot of cruise missiles, a lot of drones. Again, the Ukrainians destroyed most of them, which is good, but not all of them. So some got through. But they also decided to take it all the way through the day. So at night, I was following it online because I follow a lot of people on Twitter, on social media who are in Ukraine. Thank you, JRD. They were, and you could see from them when they were getting new alerts and things like that. So like almost every hour over the night, they were getting an alert, go to a bomb shelter, right? Go downstairs, etc. So you're constantly getting woken up. There was one at 5 a.m. And then finally there was 5 a.m., right? Waking you up again. Thank you, Happy Beach, for the gift. They then went from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. And at 11 a.m., they hit them again. And usually they don't even go during the day at all. But the Russians are basically trying to even more forcefully mess with the Ukrainians' head by, making them be up all night. Now, one thing that was very interesting, because I was thinking about this too, an Institute for the Study of War, which is a very good think tank here in Washington, D.C., a very good defense think tank. They weighed in and said sort of the same thing I was thinking, and probably a lot of you are thinking, which is, what is the actual benefit of attacking Kyiv and attacking civilians, right? We know the Russians like to attack civilians. It is, and I don't just say that flippantly, it is part of Russian war strategy to go and kill civilians. It is not part of US war strategy. It is not part of NATO war strategy. It is not part of any civilized country's war strategy to actually kill civilians. And what I mean by that is not that civilians get killed. Civilians get killed in wartime. That happens. It is horrible. It is tragic, but it is also a guarantee. Thank you, Happy Beach, for the cake. It is a guarantee that civilians will die, right? If you go after a military target, there's a chance you're going to get civilians, okay? And it's bad. Fair enough. What the Russians, I realize my little microphone thing is getting like all dusty. But what the Russians do is the Russians actually go and attack civilians on purpose. They literally, it's not like they go after the military target and oops, hit civilians. They literally forget the military and go, let's kill civilians. And they've been doing that in this war from the beginning. The thinking, thank you, Loop, for the gift there, the heart. The thinking, I guess, and the Russians have never explained this, but the thinking seems to be that the Ukrainians are going to cave. They're going to go, oh my God, so many of our civilians have died. We can't take it anymore. Please, Vladimir Putin, stop attacking us and we'll give you half our country. The Ukrainians are never going to do that. We know they're never going to do it. Well, what Institute for the Study of War was saying, the defense think tank here in DC, that the Russians are basically wasting a lot of ammunition going after Kyiv. They're using missiles. They're using drones. Now, the drones make more sense because the drones are a lot less expensive, okay? I mean, the drones could be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. I'm trying to remember. Are they 20,000? What's the actual Shahed drones? What's the cost of a Shahed drone? I don't know if anybody has it handy. I don't want to. I could ask my phone, but it usually screws these things up. What is the cost of an Iranian Shahed drone? 20,000. Okay. 20,000. That's what I figured. Yep. So thank you. Who's that? Focus. Thank you, Focus, for the crane. So around $10,000, $20,000 a drone. Missiles could cost you $1 million, $2 million. I mean, depending on some of the better missiles, right? So cost effective wise, it makes sense to use drones instead of missiles. I mean, depending what your goal is, of course. But the fact that they're wasting them, and they're still wasting a lot of missiles. Last night, for example, there were 35 drones launched on Ukraine, 29 were shot down, 40 cruise missiles were launched at Ukraine last night. So there's almost equal cruise missiles and drones. The cruise missiles actually do cost something. Thank you, Alan, for the gift. And who's the other one there with the swing? Oh, Kanowski, thank you for the swing. The missiles actually cost something. And the Russians are basically wasting them going after civilians. My final point here is, what should they be doing instead? They should be going after military targets, right? We're waiting here for the Ukrainians to finally launch the big counteroffensive when they're going to fight back against the Russians. And the Russians, in principle, should be doing everything possible to weaken the Ukrainians' attack. That means going after ammunition, going after planes, going after troops, etc. Now, the Russians did this weekend one thing they did effectively. And again, as I said, I like to tell the truth. I mean, when I talk to you guys, because it doesn't really help you or me to pretend the war is going well or it's not, you know what I mean? Like to give you spin here, because it just doesn't help. I mean, and then in the end, you don't believe me. Thank you, Benito, for the super sticker. But the Russians this weekend, I believe in the last day, did hit a military base in or a military airfield, at least in Western Ukraine. Let me see if I can find the town here. Beep, 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 beep. Oh boy, like Starokostian. Oh boy, Starokostiantin. Oh, Konstantin. Konstantiniv. Okay, I'm going to say Starokostiantiniv. I'm probably getting the accent wrong, but you get the idea. It is near. It's near this town, which I also would hate to pronounce. Khmelnytsky. I think it's near here. Okay, so Western Ukraine, not near the front. Okay, the front is all the way. This is the area the Russians occupy. So this is where the front between the Ukrainians and the Russian troops are here. So the Russians were hitting all the way over here with their missiles to go after some Ukrainian planes. And the Ukrainians did admit that the Russians did. Well, thanks. I'm trying, Ivan. I'm not sure I got it close, but I'm trying. The Ukrainians did admit that the Russians did, in fact, cause damage to a number of Ukrainian planes. And that's the first time not the first time, but the Ukrainians tend not to publicly admit to damage. So it was just, people thought it was interesting that the Ukrainians were admitting it. So anyway, not great for the Ukrainians, but what do you do? Little more news on this. So the Belgorod. So Belgorod is still getting just a lot of attack in this war. So Belgorod is a Russian province near Ukraine. Okay, up here. It's the province and it's a city. Remember that the provinces in Russia, maybe the states, the oblasts, I'm guessing all of them, just because so many in Ukraine are this way. It seems to be the the lead city in the province has the same name as the province. Now, Leningrad and St. Petersburg had that, but they changed the name. But the province, I learned this the other day, the province that St. Petersburg is in is the Leningrad province. So same thing here. So you've got the oblast or the province, which is Belgorod, and the lead city is Belgorod, bordering Ukraine right here. Here's Kharkiv, Ukraine. And the Ukrainians have been hitting this a lot. Now, in general, it makes sense because a lot of Russian logistics comes through here. Fuel, ammunition, even troops themselves come through. It's a big city, and it's important then for these. I don't know whether they come through here or around here or both, but this is what the Russians occupy. So if this is the closest here, the logistics tend to come through here, and they help the Russian Eastern occupation. So the Ukrainians hit it a lot. They hit it again this weekend with artillery, but it also sort of late breaking today before I came on with you guys, the people, what do you call them? The irregulars. Thank you, TikTok novice, for the shoes. The Russian soldiers who invaded Ukraine last week that the Ukrainians were working with, they claimed that they invaded again over the last day in Belgorod, in the Belgorod region there, which is nice because hopefully it's true. The reason for doing this is to keep throwing the Russians off their game, to freak Putin out, to hurt Putin. I mean, the idea is right because he's a dictator, and the best way you hurt a dictator is by making him look weak. So they're doing it for that reason. But also the reason that the Ukrainians themselves keep attacking, but also that they've sent these Russian troops who are working with the Ukrainians. The reason they're attacking up here is to force the Russians to beef up their defenses all along the border. Well, why? Because if the Russians are beefing up here, they're not beefing up here, right? The big expectation for the Ukrainians and the counteroffensive, and this is, I'm not spilling any secrets, everybody knows this. The big expectation is that the Russians are going to go after Zaporizhia here and Kherson. And maybe, I would say up to Mariupol. So Mariupol, right, Mariupol, Berdyansk, Melitopol are the big three that they're going to go after, these towns. And in general, they want this region to cut off the Russian occupation here from the Russian occupation here, right? It's currently one long line. Cut it in half, and you start to cause problems. So if the Russians are thinking the Ukrainians are going to attack here with the counteroffensive, they don't want to have to move troops all the way up here because the Ukrainians are either attacking or the Ukrainians are sending the Russian defectors across the border and attacking. So they're making the Russians put more troops, more men, more ammunition, more planes, everything up here, and they're moving it away from here. That's a pain in the butt, right? I mean, and it's bad planning. I mean, the Russians want to be able to basically focus on the south. This stops them from doing it. So that's why those attacks last week were a big deal. And that's why it's a big deal that they keep doing it, it seems they keep doing it. I mean, these guys claimed today that they were still doing the attacks. Let me look here. So over the weekend, Ukrainian officials reported attacks in Melitopol, Berdyansk, and Mariupol. I was just telling you. Melitopol here, Berdyansk here. You can barely see it on the map with the name here. And Mariupol here. Three major cities in the south here, southeastern Ukraine, occupied by Russia. Remember, Russia occupies all of this. Very important cities. I was just reading this today. I mean, like, I'm not the expert on Ukraine. I do know a lot about Ukraine, but I'm saying on Ukrainian transportation. But apparently, Mariupol and Berdyansk are the end of two major train lines, which are very important. And the Russians transport a lot of their troops and logistics by train, right? Thank you for who was that? Alia. Alia, thank you for the gift there. So these two cities are very important for that reason, among others. Melitopol, very important. I think it's Melitopol. Let me just double check here. I'm sure it's Melitopol. That Melitopol is major train. It's going to be Melitopol. I'm going to check. Yes, Melitopol joins Crimea to Donetsk region and continues into Russia. So Melitopol is the major train transportation city between Crimea to take the train and then all the way up here into Russia. So if they can get Melitopol, they've now cut off the main train the Ukrainians have, that the Russians have, for, again, connecting this province in the south occupied by Russia to mainland Russia. Mainland Russia is all the way over here. It's also over here. There's a bridge connecting. Remember that bridge that the Ukrainians kind of blew up? Actually, that was something I wanted to bring up. I was forgetting about that. I wanted to mention this today, and I totally forgot. I didn't even do a TikTok video about it. As an aside on all of this, some very interesting news brewing on the Ukrainian side. We have a sip of tea and then talk to you about this. I'm really kind of fascinated about this. There was an article this weekend. I wish I knew where. I mean, I read so much of this stuff, I just don't know. Talking about how Russia sort of is in danger of turning Ukraine into Israel in terms of Ukraine's intelligence capacity. And intelligence, I mean CIA intelligence, right? KGB intelligence, that kind of stuff. You've got to remember that Ukraine, thank you, Ellen, for the gift there. Ukraine is a former Soviet republic, right? It was part of the Soviet Union. Soviet Union dissolves in 1991. All the component parts, who were mostly hostages. I mean, they really were. The Russians ran the whole thing and everybody else were hostages. All the hostages get set free. The Baltic countries in the north, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, they get free, right? Ukraine gets free, a lot of other countries. The what's been happening now, so they get free, but guess what they've been trained in? Their state security people are KGB. Right? They were trained by the KGB, the big Russian CIA, right? And the very effective Russian CIA. So these guys already inherited some pretty good spy background. Well, the Ukrainians have, turned this into like par excellence kind of their spying. And it is increasingly looking like it is, I don't want to state this definitively because we don't know, but it is increasingly looking, and this was what the article was about this week, and it was very interesting, that Zelensky empowered the guy who's in charge of the military intelligence. I think it's the GUR in Ukraine. It's the GRU in Russia. Remember, they're the guys that attacked our election in the States here, the GRU. The GUR is the Ukrainian version, that he pretty much gave the guy wide latitude and said, just the country's in mortal peril, right? They're trying to wipe out the country. They're trying to kill Budanov. Thank you. Budanov is the head. Country's in mortal peril. They're trying to kill us all. They're trying to wipe out our country. It's literally genocide. This is my guess here. And Zelensky said, do whatever you need to do, right? But they are trying to literally wipe out our country. And personally, this is me, Aravosis, talking. If you're trying to wipe out my country, there are very few things that are unacceptable. If it were me and I were Zelensky, I would say, almost everything is on the table. Within reason, right? You don't go and kidnap Americans or something. You don't do something stupid, obviously. But in terms of, there are very few things, if you think they will help us, there are very few things that I think cross a line. I think he told him this because what the articles were saying now, thank you, Kay, for the gift there. What the article was saying was there's, sort of growing suspicion in the U.S. intelligence community that a lot of these mysterious things that have happened in the last year have been Ukraine, and they may have been Ukrainian intelligence. They also may have been Ukrainian. It doesn't mean it was Ukrainians, though. It may have been Ukrainian intelligence working with Russians, sympathetic Russians. This is where it gets interesting. Now you think of those Russian troops that Ukraine apparently worked with to send across the border, right? And attack Russia in the last week, right? We know that happened, and we know it was the Ukrainians working with them, and frankly, bravo to them for doing it, right? But now you start to throw in the three assassination attempts in the last several months. One was against Daria Dugina, the daughter of the far-right fascist leader in Ukraine, in Russia, where she was killed in her car. They put a bomb in her car. Then there was the, again, far-right fascist blogger tied to Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner group, who was blown up in a Prigozhin-owned cafe in St. Petersburg, Russia. He gets blown up and dies. Then you get a third guy. I always forget the story on the third guy, but he's the guy I think that was in the car, and he may have been driving instead of his driver, and his driver was next to him, and the driver ends up getting killed, but he lived. Anyway, they almost killed him. Possibly you get the pipeline. Okay, remember the German pipe? Who knows on the Nord Stream pipeline? But in terms of the pipeline now, that gets interesting. You get the Kerch, and finally the Kerch Bridge bombing. Okay. Remember, I told you guys earlier about the Kerch Bridge. Kerch Bridge is a bridge connecting Crimea here in the south to Russia. Russia's over here, but it's also over here. This is water. It's about a 12-mile, 11-mile, something like that distance here. And Putin, when he stole this from the Ukrainians, he built a bridge connecting the two. And somebody, we assume it was the Ukrainians, blew it up last October or so. It looks like it was a car bomb. It looks like it was a truck driver, I think coming from Russia. Thank you, Susanna, crossing the Kerch Bridge, and his truck blew up. And at least everything we saw at the time made it look like this truck bomber was either a suicide bomber or somebody who didn't know the truck had a bomb on it. And I mean, I even said to you guys a few days ago, if it were a suicide bomber, that would be one hell of a, like, you don't really think of Ukraine and suicide bombers, right? If it was a trucker that didn't know the bomb was on his truck, that's pretty nasty. That's pretty nasty. I mean, of whoever did it. And I mentioned the other day, and I'm thinking now, I'm not sure Ukraine would put the bomb on his truck, but Russians the Ukrainians are working with would put the bomb on a trucker's truck. I think that would be. I think if they were working with some of these Russian, whatever they are, underground people. Anyway, my point here is we're starting to get a bigger picture here. And I frankly say this in a positive way. I don't say this in a critical way, of Ukrainian intelligence becoming like the Mossad, becoming very, in other words, a small country, right? I mean, in Israel's case, and I think a lot of young people today may not totally appreciate this with Israel. Netanyahu, I think, is an idiot. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to defend Netanyahu at all. And I think Israel's gotten nastier over the last 20 years than it needs to be. So I won't defend a lot of Israel's actions. But Israel got to this point because it was surrounded by Arab neighbors who wanted to kill every single Jew. And they blew them up. They blew up their children. They put bombs in cafes. They blew up airplanes with women and children on them. They did horrific things to the Israelis. And the Israelis, being a very small country of just several million, said, you know what? Screw you. We're going to become number one. And then number one, and the U.S. helped them, of course, but number one military, but also number one spy service, the Mossad. The Mossad is scary. I mean, the Israelis go, thank you, Purnell. The Israelis go around the world, and they go, and they went after and tracked down the Nazis. I mean, they went and found Eichmann in, was it Eichmann? It was Eichmann in Argentina, one of the top Hitler sort of deputies. The Mossad able to pull off some wild things. And I think that the Ukrainians are now becoming that they were thank you, Purnell, for the robe there. They were the underdog. They are the underdog who are learning how to brilliantly go into Russia and do a lot. And frankly, what just happened today was the Ukrainians, or the last couple of days, put a, sanctions on Iran, which, I'm not sure Ukraine sanctioning Iran is going to make a big difference, whatever. But they did say, be careful because, your attack drones will come back and haunt you. I'm paraphrasing, something like that. And to me, that was Ukraine threatening to attack Iran, to basically say, we're going to do a drone attack against you. Very interesting what these guys are. In any case, my point here is I'm starting to wonder if a lot of the stuff that we aren't sure that like those attacks in Russia, the bridge, and again, the bridge could have been a bomb that the driver didn't even know about in the Kerch Bridge. And maybe even this pipeline could have been this Ukrainian intelligence unit that said, and I will leave you with this, continue with the news, but I'll leave you with this thought that we are facing a genocide. The Russians want to wipe out our country, literally. They are stealing our children in the thousands and forcibly turning them into Russian citizens. They have hit lists of our top political leaders, of our top artists, of our top activists, and they want to kill them all, right? Our top sports leaders. We are literally being threatened with our entire civilization being wiped out. You do whatever you need to stop that. I'm thinking that's let's see. But it's interesting because it also means that the Russians have created a monster here in terms of what Ukraine could spend the next 30 years going after all the Russians that were behind this war and taking them out one by one by one. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're very effective at it as well. All right, let me keep going here. Oh, yeah. Russia claims that it intercepted 3 Ukrainian Storm Shadow missiles and 6 HIMARS rockets. Thank you, Inspired Woman, for this weekend. But Russia lies. Seriously, I brought that story up just because you may hear about it. Russia lies. Never, ever, ever, ever trust anything Russia says about anything, because they lie. But I mean it. I mean, and again, I say this when I tell you guys things, I'm not saying it as hyperbole. I'm not saying it as, oh, they're all liars, like this kind of a joke or something. I mean, quite literally, yeah, every country lies sometimes, maybe. Russia does it every freaking time they speak about anything. And especially in dealing with the war, it's all a lie. So never trust them. Sometimes it may end up being true. Again, I mean, so my point is maybe it's 99% a lie. Thank you, Kanowski, for that. But never trust something the Russian. Last week, the Russians said that Ukraine's top general, Zaluzhny, was dead, that the Russians bombed him and killed him. For a week, nonstop, they talked about how we killed him. And then Zaluzhny finally popped up on a video talking about it. And it was like, not dead. My point is, don't ever believe what they say without definitive proof. That's my point. All right. And I told you about the aircraft that the Russians did in fact damage. Let me do a quick pitch really quick for my work, as I said, because I do this full time. I've been doing it full time since the war broke out. So that would be February of, I started doing the lives right at the beginning of March, actually. I started covering Ukraine when the war broke out on TikTok. And then I started doing my live broadcasts like this at the beginning of March, was doing them every day, 7 days a week for several months, and then lost my voice and finally decided, okay, I'm going to do 5 days a week. So I do 5 days a week, all day long. I'm doing the news on TikTok and everywhere else. But because I do this full time, this is my job. And I don't make money elsewhere. So this is why I hit you guys up and ask you to support my work, because quite literally I pay my bills with the support you guys give me. Now, one very easy way we just set up, and actually you guys have been giving, which makes me think it is an easier way, thank God, is using this site called coffee.com. It's actually ko-fi. You guys here have it at the bottom. Oh, thank you, Inspired Woman, for the watermelon love, beach love. Good for Memorial Day. You guys have it at the bottom of the screen there, ko-fi.com/Aravosis. You guys can find it in my profile on TikTok. Click the Linktree link. First thing that comes up is Ko-fi. Now, what it is a very easy site you could use for, one, to give me support. You give me a donation, for example. Thank you, Dawn and Dee, for the gifts there. That's another way to support me, with the gifts on TikTok or Ukraine. On I'm calling YouTube Ukraine Tube. So thank you guys for that. But you can give a one-time donation on Ko-fi. You could give a recurring donation. And if you do the recurring donations, there's only like 3 categories that only let me. But if you do a recurring donation on Ko-fi, it makes you a VIP member of our Discord. And our Discord community, I can talk about that a little more later, but our Discord community is basically a place where we hang out and we talk politics all day. We also talk, I don't talk sports, but people do talk sports a lot on there. Cooking, I did post some cooking stuff today, but usually a lot of it is Ukraine news all day long. It's discord.aravosis.com. Again, aravosis.com for you guys at the bottom of the screen. We'll take you to all those links. For you guys, go to my profile on TikTok, click the main link. You'll find my Discord. Anyway, I want to show you one thing, and then I'll show you the rest at the end of the show. We also have auctions on the Discord in addition to the donation. So I would appreciate if anybody, if you've been watching me for a while, you like the show, you can afford it, please do check out Ko-fi, because as I said, it's a nice, it's a really neat site. Oh, they take 0% take, by the way. Patreon takes 8%, and then there's more added on. Thank you, Nelson. Patreon is also evil. Patreon doesn't like Ukrainian creators, and they've been threatening everybody, including me. So Patreon, forget it. I'm never, I'm stuck with them, with some of my people there already, but I'll never recommend them again after 5 years of using them. Discord's okay, but Discord takes 10%. Ko-fi takes 0%. So anyway, I was going to tell you, the other thing is we have auctions over on the Discord of cool stuff from Ukraine that I've gotten over the last year and auctioning it off. 50% of the profits from the auction, we channel back to Ukraine. 50% go to support me, because I do this full time. As I said, no one's paying me except you guys. So this is a way of financing my work. But I will show you really quick. I got more of the boxes. These are some charity boxes from Ukraine. Orc Busters, very funny. The cute little emblem on it. Or because orc is the sort of a Ukrainian slang term for Russian troops, and literally they call them orcs because of Lord of the Rings. because at one point I'd asked Vlad, my friend in Ukraine who we work with, and I said, "Oh, that's funny. You know, orcs are the bad guys in the Lord of the Rings." And he goes, "Yes, that's why we call them that." I was like, "Oh, kind of funny." Thank you, Tom Clark. But it's neat because it's got a neat little pamphlet, lots of information showing you. I will show you in a second, of a piece of a Russian fighter jet that was shot down over Ukraine last year. And I've got all that you can kind of see. It's a very cool piece. This one's cool too because it's got the rivet in there too. You can see it's a nice sized piece. But I love this stuff. This stuff, again, I only auction off stuff that I like. Thank you, Mads. But we're auctioning this off. It's really cool. I've got all the information on the pilot, on the plane. The pilot ended up fighting for the Ukrainians. It's an Su-30SM. S as in Sam, M as in Mary. Somebody was asking which kind of plane. And we even know the plane. There's a picture. Actually, there's a picture of it, I think, here. But I found the picture. There is the picture of it here. But I also found more pictures of it online. That's the picture of the actual plane shot down. It's very cool. Anyway, these are the kind of cool things we have. Riveting because it's a rivet. These are the kind of cool things we do. Thank you, Micah, for the gift on Cash App. I appreciate that. This is the kind of cool stuff we do on the Discord. We've got lots of auctions. Half the auctions are for everybody, and half the auctions are VIP only, meaning it's for the paid subscribers, because I try to give them something. All right. It's discord.aravosis.com and coffee, ko-fi.com/Aravosis. Find both of them in the links for TikTok. The link in my bio takes you to all of them. For the rest of you, aravosis.com. All right, let me keep going, guys. Didn't mean to go so long on that, but we went long. This is a wild story. The Russian Interior Ministry has put U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham on its most wanted list. They're going to arrest him. And this is incredibly stupid of Russia. This is a great example of how the Russians do not understand American society and how Russia is shooting itself in the foot. Thank you, user 334. Now, first of all, so what happened here was Graham is a conservative Republican. He goes and meets, does a surprise trip to Ukraine this weekend. I mean, surprise to the rest of us, not to Zelensky, and meets with Zelensky. He is currently a MAGA Republican. He used to be a John McCain Republican, but then McCain died and Lindsey Graham needed whatever Lindsey Graham, could get. Lindsey Graham basically goes, whoo, shoo, shoo, where whoever's the power man, he grabs onto. So Graham now is a big Trumper because Trump was president and Lindsey needed Trump, right? But what's important about this is Lindsey Graham is a big Trumper and Trump likes Lindsey Graham. Well, the Russians not only threatened now to throw Lindsey Graham in jail and put him on their most wanted list, they threatened to kill him this weekend. They literally said on Russian TV, and mind you, Russian TV is controlled by the state, so they don't say anything. They don't get away with this stuff on Russian TV if Putin didn't basically say it was okay. And this idiot, who's the woman who was the head of RT, or still is it Margaret Simonian, I think? She gets on RT and starts talking about how, Russia's gone around the world and killed people they don't like, because they go and they kill the dissidents and these guys, and how they can do the same thing to Lindsey Graham because they know where he lives. They know his address. I mean, so basically, not even basically. So this weekend, Russia threatened to assassinate a conservative Republican U.S. senator who is close to Donald Trump. They put him on their most wanted list. This is great. I mean, this is freaking great because if you are, doing it to a Democrat wouldn't have much impact. Democrats wouldn't like it, but guess what? Democrats are already on board, right? Democrats are already on board. Republicans, it depends. A lot of Republicans are on board. A lot of Republicans aren't because of the MAGA crowd. You took somebody who is close to the MAGA crowd, somebody who's close to Trump, and you threatened to kill them. And then you said you're going to arrest them and put them on your most wanted list. All I got to say is thank you, Russia. On behalf of every Ukrainian, thank you. Because that is idiotic, stupid as hell what they did. I mean, idiotic, stupid as hell what they did. Because they're going to basically turn the Republicans into hating the Russians as much as everybody else does right now because of what Russia's been doing. Just really stupid. Anyway, just had to tell you. I also thought it was funny as hell too. It's just like, Jesus, people. Turkish election. Oh, another big story. There was a lot of big news this weekend. So Turkish elections were this weekend. Unfortunately, Erdogan, the autocrat wannabe dictator, did win. The opposition leader was less close to Moscow. Erdogan is very close to Putin, member of NATO, but still very close to Putin, unfortunately, and has not been basically agreeing to the NATO sanctions because of his tightness with Putin, and has been, as we know, causing all sorts of problems with Sweden trying to join NATO. Erdogan has said no, and Erdogan has said no, and Hungary has also said no. So bad that he got reelected. Now we're going to see what happens. I think another little sip of water here. One sec. Thank you, Timothy, for the butterflies. Please do keep the rest of the gifts coming on TikTok, guys. I appreciate it. I think Biden has been waiting until the Turkish elections. There's no need to strong arm Erdogan to accept Sweden into NATO, because remember, the Turks and the Hungarians have both been vetoing it so far. There's no reason to force Turkey to do it when Turkey was having elections where Erdogan quite possibly could have lost the elections. So why cause that kind of a row with Turkey, right? If the situation may fix itself. Well, now that the opposition leader has lost, and now that Erdogan has won, I think you're going to see two things. I think you're going to, also kind of knowing Biden, I think you're going to see Biden privately do two things. One is threaten Erdogan and say, we're cutting you off. We're cutting off your military. We're cutting off everything if you don't straighten out, because if you're not going to be a good ally, a good member, then don't be. And frankly, privately say, we don't want you to go to Russia, but really, you're going to go to Russia? Russia's going to be the economy you suck up to? Russia? That's like 1/10 the economy of the European Union. Russia's economy is awful. Russia's economy is fuel. It's natural gas and oil. Some minerals, but natural gas and oil. As John McCain said, gas station with nukes. That's Russia. It ain't nothing. So you're going to suck up to the Russian economy. That's nothing. Saddle up to it. And you're going to saddle up to the Russian military. That's also nothing. Ukraine's getting destroyed by the Russian military. Ukraine is getting destroyed by the Russian military, but the Ukrainians are destroying the Russian military. Thank you, Annette, for the shoes there. The Ukrainians, again, using our weapons, mind you, are destroying the Russian military. That's the weapons you want? You want the weapons that are getting destroyed by American weapons, getting destroyed by European weapons? Okay. But he's going to tell them two things. One, get your act in line and support Sweden or else. But two, this is very Biden, though. If you do support Sweden, I'm going to give you a very sweet military deal of the F-35s you want, and maybe more than you even wanted, right? So my suspicion is that's what's happening next, is that Biden is going to threaten Putin, or threaten Erdogan, Putin, same difference, threaten Erdogan, but also offer him a big stick and a big carrot and say, you can get a lot out of this if you finally come around. Now, Hungary is its own problem. Hungary is complaining because I don't even know what Hungary's doing. I know why, but I don't know why, because Hungary didn't have a problem with Sweden initially. Hungary suddenly developed a problem when Turkey had a problem. And I think it's because the Turks basically need to, okay, goodbye. I think it's because the Turks basically, what was I going to say with the Turks? Sorry. I'm like looking back and forth here and then forgetting what I'm talking about. Oh, Hungary. Yeah. Hungary didn't have a problem with Sweden until the Turks did. And Hungary, I think, saw that the Turks were getting something out of it, that the Turks were saying, hey, we'll negotiate at the last minute and get something. And Hungary said, we'll do it too. We'll say no and see what America and the EU give us. Now, Hungary wants European money that had been held up. I don't think that money's been released. I doubt it, because Hungary hasn't gotten any better. Thank you, Karen, for the shoes. But Hungary has been trying to get European money sorry, I'm laughing at something. Hungary's been trying to get European money, and I suspect that might be part of the back and forth there, right? That maybe the EU will free up some of the money at the request of because the EU is made up of the same countries that are in NATO, not all of them, but many of them, and maybe that'll be it. But I think they're going to try to bribe him, but it'd be nice if they could give him a little tough love as well. Now, sorry. Thank you, Canalsi, for the flowers. There were a number of gifts that came in while I was talking. Marcy, Canalsi, Norway Fox. I don't remember your name. You might be new. Karen. Sorry, I'm going to see if I may have missed a few others. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. I think I got a lot of you at least. And Annette. I think Annette, I remember mentioning Annette. All right. Let me go on here. The beep. I'm gonna sort of jump to Q&A really quick. So one quick thing to mention. The Russians are talking about having a 6-day work week. Did I miss you, liberal? I'm sorry, liberal defender. Thank you. I was like in the middle of the roll, and all of a sudden, like 5 GIFs popped up on the screen, and I was going, "Oh shit! Like I'm not going to remember this." Thank you for that. I'm sorry about that. No, Norway was a person. I thanked the Norway TikToker who gave me a gift. His name was Norway, or her. Thank you, Happy Beach, for that. Russian state-backed media and business groups have petitioned the Kremlin to instigate or to authorize a 6-day work week to try to help the war effort. That has got to be a great way to piss off Russians and make them hate the war even more, is tell them the war is mind you, 3-day war, right? The 3-day war is going so well that we're now going to make you work 6 days a week instead of 5. I thought that was kind of cool. And finally, Denmark is providing Ukraine with another 2.6 billion in military aid over the next 2 years. That is important because it's a hell of a lot. Apparently, it's like, is it equal to Denmark's defense spending? I mean, like, it's a huge amount. Thank you, Ali, for the gift. But what's also interesting about it is that it's over the next 2 years. And I think the idea here is, I'm kind of understanding now why some of the other countries have done this. They're trying to show continuity. They're trying to show the Russians that, oh, you think you can drag this out and we're going to walk. Well, guess what? Denmark just committed for another 2 years to this war, and we've committed how much money we're giving, right? So it's signaling to the Russians that, well, now we're here for another 2 years, if you thought we were going to leave today. So that's really helpful. I mean, it's great for them to do it anyway, and especially because for Denmark being a smaller country, smaller economy, it's a huge gift, but it's also a really important one in terms of the message it sends, which is great. Leanne just said, I just want to say Ukrainian military commercial was badass, makes me want to join. Oh, was that the, yeah, there was a video this weekend that looked kind of like a Ukrainian TV commercial. Thank you, Ali, for the cake. Kind of a Ukrainian TV commercial, but it was also meant to, it sounded like it was a bit of the counteroffensive. Winter is coming. The counteroffensive is coming. Get ready, Russia, and get ready, Ukrainians. It was kind of a call to action to all of Ukraine that we're ready, but also kind of a recruitment video as well, and meant to scare the Russians. Exactly, sort of F the Russians. I think Moon is saying to basically say Russia, because it did say that. Remember, it said, like, we're ready for you, we're going to kill you, we're going to get you. There was like this chant with the soldiers. Very good video. It was a very good video. Yeah. Irina agrees. From my Ukrainian friend, Irina agrees. So that's good. No, it really was. It was a great video, but I hadn't really thought of it from the recruitment perspective as well, which was nice. All right, guys, let me show you a couple of the rest of the gifts that we've got, the auction items we've got on the Discord, and then we're going to do questions and answer. And thank you, Gray, for the boxing gloves. I will go late today because this is another day that the news went late, but I want to show you a couple of the other auction items we have on our Discord. I told you we've got a Discord community, discord.aravosis.com. All of the links you can find in TikTok in my profile. Just go to the Linktree link, click it. You'll see, I'll just show you. You click it and you see, thank you, Karen, for the gifts there. You click it and you can see all of, that's my profile on TikTok. Thank you. Who is that? Annette. You go really close and you see the URL underneath Discord, PayPal. I guess you have to get rid of the, you click the link and the very first thing that comes up should be my Ko-fi, which is the way, there you go. Ko-fi, one-time recurring donation. Now, as I said, that's a nice way to support my work. You can just donate. You can also give a recurring donation every month, which is great. But also, if you do the recurring donation, you can become a VIP member of our Discord, and we have very cool auctions, some of them for VIP, some for regular. I already showed you the airplane parts. We're auctioning off a piece of a Russian fighter jet shot down. Also auctioning off some very cool Ukrainian postage stamps, really cool postcard and envelope too, but they're the Ukrainian tanks, Ukrainian tractor pulling the Russian tanks. Oh, that's good. Thank you for the gift. Who was that gift from? Thank you for the gift there. It was Pom Pom. Thank you for that. But very cool. The Ukrainian tractors pulling the tanks. It's a really cool color. It's kind of hard to show on here. It's like sunset colors, but very cool. Second thing, one of our wonderful followers makes jewelry, and she made these beautiful earrings out of using a Ukrainian embroidery, the Vyshyvanka embroidery. So you can see closely. And these are sort of winter themed, snowflake themed, but they're from a Ukrainian design that she's silk screened. I've got all the information. They're very cool. So those she donated those to us, and these have been doing very well, I will say, in the auction. Very proud of you for making them. Thank you, Gray here. And the Gray Heart for the shooting stars. And the other thing, this one's really neat. This is the Russian warship Go F Yourself stamp. It's not the stamp. It's a plaque based on the stamp. But the Ukrainians, I'll hold it here. The Ukrainians did a stamp to basically, this ship is the Moskva. The Moskva is the Russian ship that the first day of the war, I believe, approached Snake Island in southern Ukraine and told them basically to surrender. And remember, the guy got on the horn and he said, "Russian warship, go F yourself." And became famous. Some of these guys died. Some of them became prisoners of war. I don't know if all of the ones that are prisoners got released, but I think most of them did. I think all of them did. Well, 6 weeks later, and this is where I talked earlier about Ukraine becoming like the Mossad. 6 weeks later, Ukraine sank the ship. They created their own cruise missile and sank the ship. So they created a stamp showing a Ukrainian soldier flipping his middle finger to the ship. This is a Ukrainian stamp. And this is the plaque based on the stamp. You can see on the back, it's got a hook for hanging on the wall. It's also got the little stuff for putting on a table. It's really cool. It's made by the Ukrainian government. And I like it anyway, because I think it's wonderful. So this is one of the other things that we're auctioning off. We've got a lot of cool stuff to auction off on the Discord, discord.aravosis.com. You can find it via aravosis.com or via the link in my profile on TikTok, or you guys just at the bottom of the screen. And as I said, use the Ko-fi link as well. If you guys, I would appreciate just to support my work. You could give one-time donations. You could also just do recurring donation. Anyway, the W is because it's a stamp. There's a couple different letters. Somebody was asking the W on it, what it means. The W is because there's at least two. I was looking this up actually. Thank you. Who's that? Tom Clark. Thank you for the hearts. I was looking this up, and because I've got some of the stamps too that we're auctioning, and there's actually the hang on, the stamps. These stamps. I want to see if it actually has there on there. It's like different circulation. It's not on this stamp. There's like different circulation based on how the stamp is stamped. And there's like W or M or I don't even know what, but some of them go out to more people. Some of them are fewer people. Anyway, it's some different variety of the stamp. I don't know if it just matters for stamp collectors or what, but the W is part of the stamp design. Yeah. Anyway, very cool. All right, let's go. Let's jump in here and oh God. Okay. Whoever's on Twitch, just please get rid of Enzo. I don't know why you're negotiating with this guy. Just get rid of him, please. Okay. That is the definition of a troll. Please. Thank you. I'm getting tired of seeing this discussion pop up. No offense, but you shouldn't be engaging with people like that. Just get rid of him, please. Sorry. We're having a troll over on Twitch, and it's not a very busy community there to start with. So I kind of hate to see one person who basically hates the states just kind of get there and monopolize the country. He's basically making it an America hating discussion. And, come on. I mean, give me a break. I got news for you. America's not a perfect country. Guess who's worse? Cobra, thanks for showing up. We needed you. We've had a troll on who's been having a little too much bandwidth over there on Anyway, Cobra, now that you're here, have a little look at who's there. We've had at least one troll and possibly a second who's causing trouble. Thank you. Oh, and I messaged you privately on Discord because I had a question about the integration. We're having some issues with the integration on Discord, and I could use some help with that. Thank you, Canalsi, for the superpower. Thank you, Pauline. Actually, I'll tell you guys quickly, and then let's do the questions. We're trying to integrate the Discord and the Discord and Twitch. And some of the subscribers, the paid subscribers on Twitch, are getting passed to Discord. Some of them aren't. And I don't know if it's that the Twitch people, once you subscribe or whatever, you've got to do your own integration or whatever it is to Discord. Anyway, Cobra, I wrote to you privately on Discord. If you could get back to me there and just tell me. But I think maybe people aren't doing something to link the two accounts. All right. That was way too wonky for the rest of you. I apologize. Let's go to Q&A. All right. Q&A. Okay. Thank you, Jens. Appreciate it. Elizabeth. Thank you. I think we've already got a new subscriber over on the Discord. Thank you, Elizabeth. That was very sweet of you. All right. let me pull up. You guys can submit questions on TikTok via the Q&A. You see the Q&A that's on my homepage there? If you click the Q&A, you can actually write questions. Oh, thank you, Michael, for the hat. You can actually write questions, which is a nice way, frankly. I mean, I'm going to still try to see them on the screen, but they go flying by on the screen and I lose them. So if you put them in the Q&A, they won't disappear. There's a better chance that I'm going to see them. Thank you, Pauline, for the duck. And who was that? Michael. Oh, yeah, Michael Brzezinski. I remember you. We were talking about the Brzezinski similarity of your name. Thank you for the hat there. And the rest of you obviously can just write stuff at the bottom of the screen. Hang on here. All right. Do you think the U.S. purposely leave weapon to the Taliban so they could use it against Iran? No. Interesting though, but no. I mean, leaving Afghanistan was a disaster. I'm not sure it could have been done much better, but it was a disaster regardless. And the weapons, I mean, a lot of the weapons that were left for the Afghan military. Not to get into that whole topic, but they were left for the Afghan military that literally collapsed. Thank you, Pauline, for the flowers. So that's, no. I actually want to dig in a little more into that. I mean, I'm not as up on the story. I know the Taliban attacked Iran, and I'm dying to know more about it because the Ukrainians are just going, now what would be amazing would be if the Ukrainians had a hand, but I can't imagine the Ukraine. I mean, as good as the Ukrainians are, I can't imagine them having a hand in this, but you know what? They're good. So who knows, No update on the ship that was hit by a drone. I was reading this weekend, or maybe it was Friday or Saturday, that the Ukrainians sent a number of unmanned boats. I call them boat drones. So drones, but they're boat drones, right? Filled with, explosives, and attacked a really high value Russian intelligence ship in the Black Sea, right? South of Ukraine. And the Russians claimed that all the ships, were fine, that they blew up all of the Ukrainian boat drones. The Ukrainians turned around and released a video showing one of the boat drones pulling up right next to the Russian ship before it blew up. Now, I mean, or we didn't actually see it blow up, but pulled up right next to the ship. There was a second video that was released that shows what appears to be at least one of these, unmanned bomb boats, UBB, unmanned bomb boats, blowing up. Thank you for the gift, Victor. I appreciate that, for the donation. The unmanned bomb boat, one of them blowing up away from the Russian boat ship. So that one, the Russians were telling the truth, right? They blew it up. The other one seems to be right at the back of the ship. Now, it's not really clear if the Russians are showing all the pictures of the boat. They showed pictures that made it look like the ship was okay. It's also not clear that even if the ship looked like it was okay on the outside, was it really okay, right? I mean, could they have caused damage under the water? Could damage internally? Who knows? As somebody pointed out, they said, the ship immediately had to return to shore, which right there makes you wonder if there was something wrong with it. We don't know, and I don't know that we're ever going to know more than what already was reported. I know it's a shame it's not on the bottom of the sea, but it does appear that it's not on the bottom of the sea. Other than that, how do we know, right? I mean, I don't think we're going to know anymore, but I would suspect that some Russian troops got very seriously injured, among other things, Anyway, Kelly's weighing in. Kelly's always smart here. Thank you, Kelly. Afghanistan and Iran are both theocracies on opposite sides of the Shia-Sunni divide. Ooh, and share a border. It was always going to be trouble. Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Oh, funny. Roger writes from YouTube, I'm in Connecticut, and last week Russia sanctioned our Attorney General William Tong as punishment because he supports prosecuting the January 6th perpetrators. Oh, yeah. One of the things Russia did last week, remember when they added a bunch of American comedians to the list of people they were sanctioning? And they also sanctioned people, thank you, Bonnie, people who are involved with putting the January 6th insurrectionists who tried to violently overthrow our government, putting those people in jail because the Russians say they're political prisoners And of course, the Russians are doing this because they're trying to curry favor with Trump. Because Trump has talked about possibly, actually, DeSantis has too, I think. Trump has talked about possibly pardoning these people. Well, DeSantis has talked about possibly pardoning Trump. I didn't hear what DeSantis has said about the violent insurrectionists, but nonetheless, the Russians are trying to cause trouble. Yeah, so they did that. I didn't realize he was on the list, but I did know they were trying to basically, be jerks about it. I know that we talked about the warrant for Lindsey Graham. We did discuss that earlier, and when they threatened to kill him, they threatened to kill a American, senator. It's absolutely ridiculous. Are you surprised the counteroffensive hasn't happened yet? I mean, let me put it this way. I'm not surprised. I expected it to happen already. Yes. I kind of thought the Ukrainians were like itching to go. But I will say I'm surprised in the sense that I expected it would have happened by now, but it's not something that leaves me scratching my head. It makes sense to me. Again, the Ukrainians won't admit what's going on because they shouldn't tell anybody publicly what they're doing. But what we think is, I don't think it's the F-16s. Hillbilly's asking about waiting for the F-16s. The problem is the F-16s, if we're getting our information right, the Ukrainians are just starting to train on the F-16s, which again, I would fault our administration for this. We should have been training them in the F-16s months ago, but it looks like we didn't. So thank you, Renner, for the gift. If it's true that we just started training them in the F-16s, it's going to take 4 months plus for them to train on these American fighter jets, right? And then they've got to get them. They've got to learn also to take care of them and upkeep and everything else. So that could take months. The thinking is, though, that two things are going on. One, the Ukrainians are waiting for the ground to firm up because coming out of the winter, the ground was still too wet. Sorry, my allergies are going crazy. The ground was still too wet. And for tanks in particular, other vehicles too, but tanks in particular, you don't want to really run them on wet ground because they'll sink and they get stuck. And you have to then, if the ground is wet, you got to run the tank on the main road. And if it's on the main road, it's literally in the public for everyone to see and everyone to bomb, which is not good. So they have to wait for the ground to firm up sufficiently. That's the first thing. Second of all, your F-16 comment is correct in the sense that they are probably waiting for some weapons to arrive that aren't there yet. It could be more tanks. It could be more British cruise missiles. It could be the French cruise missiles. The lunar phase matters as well. Joshua just said the lunar phase matters. That is absolutely right. Now, military folks, I've mentioned this before, and I totally forgot which one it is. I think it's a new moon or whatever you call it when the moon is at its smallest. I think that's the favored time because your planes in the sky can't be seen as well, although that doesn't make sense either because it'd be radar. But I forget if it's the new moon or I don't think it's the full moon. I think it's the new moon, right? That tends to be favored. Because I know the new moon is no moon, correct. But I'm saying that my question is the new moon, is that not the more favored time often for attacks? The new moon, which is no moon? I think it is. In any case, that is also an issue based on the preference of the military, or it can be an issue as far as the phases of the moon. So we don't know what weapons we're waiting for. One of the things I was saying last week about this is, for example, what if we know Ukraine's got a lot of the tanks? What if the tanks are coming over the next 3 months? But there's a big shipment in the next month and then smaller shipments over the next 2 months. If you're Ukraine, you might say, you know what? It might be worth waiting 1 more month because half the tanks that are left to come are coming in the next month. And then after that, they're dribbling out over several months, right? So if that were true, I don't know if that's true. If that were true, then you might say, if you're Zelensky, well, you know what? I'm going to wait a month because we'll get half the remaining tanks, right? Was that Marcy? Oh, Martin. Thank you, Martin, for the heart there. So I think that's part of it too, is whatever the timetable is on the various weapons, Zelensky's holding this off. Thank you, Bonnie and Marcy both. And Bonnie again. Zelensky's sort of holding off on some of the weapons to arrive too. But we'll see. I mean, they're certainly making noise as if they're getting ready. Thank you, Nicholas, for the heart. They're making noise that the Ukrainians are getting ready to attack, but part of that could be just screwing with the Russians. I mean, right? You know the Ukrainians too. They've got to be. I mean, the Ukrainians have got to be saying we're getting ready to, if the Ukrainians are saying we're getting ready to attack, then they're not getting ready to attack. Right? I mean, we know they're screwing with the Russians because they're very good. They're very good at like getting in the head and kind of playing games with the Russians, you know? Thank you, Bash, for that. Does Ukraine have non-F-16s that can be effective? I mean, they've got MiGs. Yeah, they've got MiGs, MiG fighter jets, and they're, effective, but the F-16s are way better. Thank you, Canada. Thank you, Canada team there. Oh, I remember you. Thank you for that, Chad. We had chatted. I am not an F-16 expert, but one of the things that I think it was Sam in our Discord, again, one of the neat things in the Discord is we've got a lot of people with military background who know the weapons. And it's a nice place to be able to go. Thank you, Bonnie, for the C gift. It's a nice place to go to actually ask your questions. And one of the things that I was actually asking was one of the guys, Sam, who I think is U.S. military. Thank you, Lanny, and has been working with I think he may even be in Ukraine, I think. But he was talking about the F-16s and why they're beneficial. And one of the things he mentioned was the interaction between some of the weapon systems we're giving the Ukrainians and the F-16s themselves. That basically, and again, over my head in terms of operating military hardware, but that it is much better to use these weapons in concert with the F-16 than trying to jerry-rig them, which we have with the MiGs. So, and they're using a lot of the Western weapons with the MiGs, which is fine. But by using the F-16, the computers are able to interface with them and do a lot more. Again, over my head, but apparently it's a lot better. But in any case, they've got the MiGs, and the MiGs are good, but the F-16s are just so much better than the MiGs. So, I mean, anyway, what else we got? More questions here, guys. Yes, that was W.C. Fields. I mentioned that last week. Milley, who's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, so America's top military official, had said last week that he believes Ukraine has enough weapons to win back their territory, and that he no longer thinks Russia can win the war militarily. That he thinks Russia's basically done what they could, and that at this point, now the problem is you get into a little bit of a semantics question of what does win mean, right? Does Russia winning mean Russia taking all of Ukraine, right? Russia's original goals, taking all of Ukraine, replacing the government? I mean, that's not going to happen. Does Milley consider Russia winning being if Russia's able to hold the territory that it's currently occupied? So it kind of depends what he means by that. Thank you, Blue Eyed, for the hearts, but it's still very good news, obviously, that if our top general is saying that it was a very big vote of confidence for Ukraine, which was nice and good to see, considering what point we're at now. Oops, turning my light down a little bit now. Let me pull up more questions here. I don't know. It's a good question, though. Nick is saying, how will Ukraine keep up the manpower with all of the equipment coming in? Like they say they need 200 tanks, but do they have the crew for the tanks? I mean, they should. They're training. What they've been doing all this time is they've been, and not just the tanks. I mean, the crew. My head. I'm spacing out. Not the Stingers, the current missiles we gave them. Patriots, the Patriot missile batteries. They had to learn to operate the Patriot missile batteries, but they had to have all the support staff that helps and train the engineers who know how to fix it and all this kind of stuff, right? And F-16s even more so, but the tanks too, right? You've got the logistics people, but you've also got just the basic engineers that fix it and keep it in tip-top shape, et cetera, right? All of those get trained before we give them the equipment and before they use the equipment. So the men and women who will be helping take care of the tanks are already being trained at the same time that the men and women who drive the tanks are being trained. So, also, if you think of 200 tanks, okay, I mean, 200 tanks, I don't know how many people it takes to, maybe 10 per tank. I don't know. I mean, what it takes to sort of take care. Well, actually, the tank itself is going to have a crew. I don't know if it's a crew of 3 or whatever it is, but it's going to have several people in the tank, depending on the tank, 3 to 5, right? Then you're going to have the crew that takes care of the tank, the logistics. But if you're talking 200 tanks, is that 2,000 people? I mean, Ukraine's got a military that I don't even know what's the size now. Is it 200 or 300,000? I mean, I don't know what the active military is that Ukraine has now, but we do know they've got another like 50 to 100,000 sort of fresh troops that aren't even being used yet that they're saving, right? We'll go to Discord for a little bit afterwards. Yeah, Cobra. I don't want to go too long tonight anyway. I mean, I've already been going long, but if we finish soon, we can do a little bit of Discord afterwards. Yeah. 4 per Leopard. Thanks, Jens. So yeah, Jens is saying, for example, there's a 4-man crew per Leopard tank. For example, the German tanks that they're getting. 700,000 men, Wayne is saying, for Ukraine. I mean, well, 1.6 million active military, but the problem is then you get into, how many of those are really available? It's not like Ukraine has 1.6 million men ready ready on the front lines. You know what I mean? That's not quite happening. But I don't think it's, anyway, I don't think that's a problem though. I don't think finding, 1,000 or 2,000 men or women to train is the problem for Ukraine. Probably not. Thank you, Joy. All right, let's do a few more here and then we go. Let me just see here really quick. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, they've killed a lot. I mean, actually, they killed some before too. User 5343 is saying, watched a movie and was shocked. In 1944-45, Russia killed 25,000 Ukrainians. This has upset me very much. They also killed a lot of Ukrainians in the early 30s. Wasn't the, is it Holodomor? I always get confused with the air base north of Kyiv. I think it's Holodomor, is the genocide against the Ukrainians with the starvation under Stalin. That was 1933. Right? Ish, 33, 34. Ukrainians, help me. Holodomor. Okay, thank you. But that was even earlier. Yeah, that was the 1930s even. So they've been doing it for a while. Yeah, sadly. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I was wondering about this. So Kelly Fonts just waited. Kelly's always great. Thank you, Kelly, for bringing it up. Kelly just quoted Mark Hertling, 32-33. Thank you. Thank you, Cheyenne. I was close. Kelly Fonts is saying that Mark Hertling, who's a general I like a lot, American retired general, and he said today that today there have been repeated messages of this statement of, I'm guessing you mean the video, Kelly, the video that was put out, sort of what we're calling the recruitment video? Or are you saying he's saying there's been multiple avenues they've put this out? But basically that from a commander's perspective, I'm quoting him, this is the equivalent of the boss saying, okay, you've got the green light, execute. So that was one of the things I was curious about, was whether the video that was done this weekend, that video of, like I said, the Ukrainians sort of talking to the troops and showing all the weapons and saying, we've got them, we're going to get them, we're going to kill them, we're going to destroy them. It was this very rallying cry, whether it was in part a not so coded message saying we're on, in other words, begin. That's interesting. Yeah. No, but Hertling thinks it was. Now, what I would have been curious from Hertling was, what's the point in giving the message that way? Or is that the whole point? You want to give sort of a rah message. You know what I mean? Like, why do it that way? Why not just do it through military channels quietly and say, okay, we're on? I just would have been curious. Although I may ask him on Twitter. He's very good about responding on Twitter if he sees your comment. It's the statement she posted earlier. Okay, I'm not sure which statement. I don't always see everything. Anyway, all right, guys. I think what we'll do is let me do the recap, and then we'll go to the Discord and hang a little bit at the Discord. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, so I'll do a quick recap of the stories we covered today, and then we'll go to the Discord. It's discord.aravosis.com. Hang a little bit more. As I've said, you can check out the Discord. It's free anyway, but you can also subscribe, become a subscriber, and you support my work in doing so, which is really nice of you. And you can also access our auctions, and we've got really, really, really cool stuff from Ukraine. Half of it for everybody to auction, and half of it for the VIP members, the paying members of our Discord, as a thank you to you guys. And 50% of the profits from the auction go right back to Ukraine. The other 50% support my work because I do this full time. And that and you are the only things keeping the lights on and feeding my dog. So thank you all for your support. All right, let me keep going here. So, all right, day 459 of Putin's 10-day special military operation. Today is Memorial Day in America. I quickly did an update on our fundraiser for the hospice, for the children's hospice in Ukraine. We raised $1,734, which means we were able to prepare 247 kits for these kids. Kits having paper, pencil, notebooks, toys, all sorts of stuff. Thank you, Kelly, for the gift on TikTok. So thank you guys for your support with that. Yesterday was Kyiv Day, the anniversary of the founding of Kyiv 1,541 years ago. Excuse me. Big 24-hour attack, actually big 48-hour attack on Kyiv and Ukraine this weekend. The Russians particularly were going after Kyiv, a lot of missiles, a lot of drones. Some got through, but most were destroyed as always. We talked about how it seems a little bit of a poor decision on the Russians' part to be spending so much of their weaponry trying to terrorize citizens in Kyiv, which isn't going to make the counteroffensive any easier. You should be going after the military and not the civilians. Belgorod, which is the province right across the border from Kharkiv, Ukraine, the Ukrainians have been attacking again this weekend and today with artillery, but also those Russian fighters, those Russians who defected, whatever they are, claim that they attacked Belgorod again to freak out the Russians. So, over the weekend, Ukrainian officials reported attacks on Melitopol, Berdyansk, and Mariupol, 3 key cities Ukraine will need in order to cut the Russian occupation in half. Russia claims it intercepted 3 Storm Shadow missiles and 6 HIMARS rockets this weekend, but Russia lies, and you shouldn't believe anything they claim with regards to the military until it is verified elsewhere. I will guarantee you that's a lie. Russia also, by the way, with HIMARS, I didn't mention this before, Ukraine has received 20 HIMARS missile systems from the West. Russia claimed they've destroyed like 42 of them early on. Ukraine only had 20. Russia destroyed 42. Basically, they destroyed a bunch of decoys, and they thought they destroyed the real thing and took credit for it. Not the brightest bulb. Russia did, however, damage several Ukrainian aircraft, likely at an airfield in western Ukraine. CNN reports that the Interior Ministry in Moscow has placed U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, a conservative Republican MAGA supporter, on its wanted list, and several, or I should say one of Putin's top propagandists on television basically threatened to assassinate Graham this weekend. I didn't mention why, actually. It was all because Graham was meeting with Zelensky, and Zelensky mentioned, all the Russian troops dying and and Graham said, this is the best, what do you say? This is the best spending of our money ever, or something like that. Like, this is the best spent money the U.S. could put out there for defense or whatever. And the Russians got upset because they interpreted it as meaning that it was killing Russians is the best way to spend our money. Or what was the exact quote? I'm like screwing up the quote here from Graham. Hang on. I've got where was it? Oh, the best money ever spent. That was it. The best money ever spent. And the Russians took it as killing Russians was the best money ever spent, which honestly is a nuance without a difference, because I've got news for you. Lindsey Graham, when he's told, hey, they're spinning your quote as being that killing Russians is the best money ever spent, Lindsey Graham would have gone, yes. I mean, he wouldn't sit there and go, oh my God. And I would say probably almost every Ukraine supporter in the war would also say the same thing. They're not going to cringe because Russian troops are getting hurt. You're committing genocide. That's the point of the war. In any case, so that was kind of a funny story because they're going to turn all the MAGA people against them. Turkish election, bad guy won, big trouble for Sweden. Hopefully, Biden puts pressure on, thank you, Dora. Biden puts pressure on Turkey and Hungary to get Sweden into NATO this summer. I didn't mention this story. We were going too long. Lukashenko in Belarus promised, he's like Oprah with a gift under the seat, promised any country that joins the coalition of the United Russia-Belarus coalition can get nuclear weapons. And I think Kazakhstan or somebody already said no thank you, which is very funny. 6-day work week, Russian-backed state media is petitioning the government, which basically means Putin is petitioning himself, to authorize a 6-day work week in Russia to help make up for war production or whatever, which is going to make a lot of Russians really happy. And finally, Denmark is providing Ukraine with another $2.6 billion with a B over the next 2 years. And part of the reason that is important is because, thank you, America. Sorry, I'm looking at this, America. And did I miss anybody? I was making sure I didn't miss anybody else with the gifts. Thank you, Dora. Part of the reason that's important is because Denmark is spreading it over 2 years. And that is a way of sending Russia a message of saying, we're not going anywhere, right? That don't think waiting a few months and we're going to disappear, because we're already promising a set amount of money over 2 years. So great news from Denmark overall, but also very nicely done the way Denmark did it to show that it's there for the long haul. So, so Putin doesn't think we're all going to walk away. Anyway, very nice. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, mods. Thank you for the gifts, all of you. Thank you for the new subscribers as well. As I said, you can always go to my link, aravosis.com. You guys can just go to the link in my profile on TikTok. You guys, bottom of the screen. And those links, you can subscribe to our Ko-fi.com subscription. You can join our Discord. You can support me via Patreon, Venmo, Cash App, whatever you want. Or you can just go and check out my other stuff, check out my LinkedIn and see who I am. But anyway, thank you guys so much for this. I'm going to itch my nose privately once my camera's off. And then let's go to the Discord and we'll hang out a little bit on the Discord, okay? And then I'll put on some rice. I'm going to put on my rice boiling while I'm doing the Discord. So go to the Discord, and otherwise I'll see you guys tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, US from Washington, D.C. It's discord.aravosis.com. Find the link in my profile on TikTok. Find the link at the bottom of the screen, aravosis.com. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. All of your support and help. Thanks, guys. All right, see you tomorrow. I'll see you at Discord, anybody who's going over. Oh, once you get to Discord, go look for John's After Party. I forgot to say that. John's After Party. I think it's at the top now. We moved, we sort of made the Syndicate helped us make this Discord kind of a little less discordant. Yep. And then Cobra, you can check out the message I was telling you over on the Discord, the confusion I'm having with people subscribing. All right. Thanks, guys.